If I'm gonna start a podcast, it's gonna start like this. Hello, my name is Nathan. I'm a musician, a circus performer, an artist, or something of that approximation. I absolutely adore Blindboy Boat Club and his podcast. So I'm trying to create a podcast hug environment for me to talk to you with. I've experimented with podcast stuff before, but every time I try to do a voiceover, every time I try to do a podcast, I always sound kind of half asleep. And that doesn't sound engaging to listen to. So you're getting this. You're getting this kind of in between. I'm still lying back, staring at the ceiling, looking out the window, looking at the stars and the moon as I float somewhere far, far away. What I want you to imagine me sending you an extremely long voice note. That's what this is. This is not a podcast. This is an extremely long voice note. I've been going through kind of a creative slump the past few days. No, maybe more of a productive slump. I've been able to make things, but nothing concrete, nothing worth editing. It's kind of the bar that I've set for myself. It's kind of the bar I think a lot of artists set for themselves, which is, can I come back to this and will I still want to work on it tomorrow? And if you can do that, you've done a good job. Because so often we make things that we never want to see again. We make things that we wish people didn't know we made. Make things that we try to forget about. One of the hardest things about live performance is that all of your mistakes, everybody gets to watch them. But what's nicer about live performance than about recording is that nobody can look back at it. As soon as people can record something, or as soon as you record yourself, you become hyper fixated on every little mistake and problem that you make. It's maddening. But this creative slump, I'm trying to find ways to come out of it. And I think I'm trying to develop a way to come out of it. I was chatting to a friend of mine earlier on, a fellow artiste, and they were telling me the same thing, that they were going through this kind of slump. I think a lot of us are. And I realized that I don't have the same kind of advice for artists, at least for cerebral artists. Like if you came to me and said that you were physically training, like you were training circus or dance, and that you were having difficulties creatively, having difficulties physically, I could give you a lot more advice. I could talk about the mundanity of stretching and how important it is to have that kind of meditative, low cognitive movement. This is why Tai Chi is so beautiful, because once you become extremely, even overly familiar with all of the movements, then you forget about them and you just move and you just exist in that space and time. You're not making anything. You're not choosing anything. You're becoming part of a river. You're just flowing. And physically, we're very aware that healing and rest, it's not about stopping. It's not about lying there frozen still. Healing and rest, when it comes to the body, involves movement. It involves gentle stretching, light exercise, just general calm motions. And we don't seem to have this kind of equivalent in the artistic space, in the mental space. For a lot of us working in the arts, the advice you're given is power through. Or the other extreme, which is stop. Why are you doing this to yourself? So I want to explore this idea. I want to talk to you about what I think good advice for artists, for creative people is when you find yourselves in need of rest, but with no idea on how to rehabilitate yourself. There are two ideas that come to mind. One of them is artistic play. And this is the one that you might expect. This is the one that you might imagine would work more than anything else. When you're feeling creatively stuck making a project, why don't you try to enjoy your creativity somehow? And this could be something as simple as coloring in. It could be something as simple as building something with blocks in a video game. It could be any kind of creative outlet that doesn't require a high skill level, that doesn't require high stakes, that is challenging enough in a way that doesn't ultimately matter. And this is an interesting one. I wonder where the difference between play and creative play comes into here. Because at what point are you just playing Tetris? Tetris is not the most creatively stimulating game. I would argue it does not help you overcome any creative blocks. So then, are we thinking Minecraft? Stardew Valley? Something that you can build and manufacture and develop your own systems for? That doesn't feel right either. I guess it's more so about the creative side of creative play than it is about the play side of creative play. It's about being creative in a low stakes manner. So if you rearrange your furniture, that's something I would see as creative play. If you hang up a bunch of photographs, that's creative play. If you do what I do quite often, which is you dive into the public domain and then you absolutely desecrate some artist's work and you have so much fun. I think in humor, we find a lot of creative freedom and a lot of creative relief. A few weeks ago, I was sitting in the cafe with some friends and I asked for a word. And the word I got was bush. So in capital letters, I wrote bush out on my page and I drew the shape of a poster surrounding it. And I came up with different slogans. Why would the word bush be on a massive piece of paper? Would it be a campaign poster for one of the George Bushes? Would it be an advertisement for some kind of bush trimming service? No. Instead, I decided to go for a propaganda poster that was trying to convince the reader to hate the LGBTQ community because the Bush munchers were coming for their children. It was very funny. It was very silly. And then after I did my little slogans, I detailed the poster to make it look like it had been ripped or like it had been worn away with weather. I added bricks surrounding it to imply that it was on a wall. Just Stupid little things. But I think that kind of creative play is exactly what keeps us in the flow of creativity. It keeps us in that river. But it takes the weight off for a while. It's like laying on your back and letting the tide pull you in instead of having to swim to shore. The alternative to creative play is exactly the opposite, which is creative monotony. This is when, let's say, as an artist, you're practicing so intensely to draw characters in a particular way, or you're trying to figure out what's the best pose for this particular feeling, for this particular vibe, and instead you just want to draw eyes. Instead you just draw feet, and you draw hundreds of them. And not only that, but you draw the exact same thing on repeat. This idea of thoughtless, monotonous iteration. I find myself accidentally doing this whenever I try to create drums for a song. I find myself getting so frustrated with the inability to write appropriate drums for whatever piece it is that I'm working on that I just turn off the song. I just put a gigantic reverb and a delay on the drums, and I just start mashing buttons. And I find a real basic rhythm that I like, and I just play it over and over and over and over again. And I think this kind of monotonous play, again, it gets us out of our head. It gets us away from the ego, because this is one of the core differences between physical play and creative play. With physical play, most often, your ego, your identity is not attached. But with creative play, everything you make becomes a reflection of who you are. And therefore it becomes a statement. So everything you make becomes a statement on who you are fundamentally as a human being. And that means that it can be judged, which means you can be judged. That's a lot of weight to carry around into a single drawing or a single song. So, I think these exercises I'm suggesting is a way to remove your ego just for a moment. Remove the fear of judgment. And just go with the flow. I'm sure there's more ways. I'm sure what I'm suggesting is not novel or new. I'm sure there's been a lot of work and a lot of research done into this, but what I can't shake is the fact that I've never seemed to come across it. Like, in the theater world, in the dance world, in the circus world, if you have an injury, if you have a physical issue, at some point, everybody's had something similar. We've all picked up knowledge, we've all picked up ways of dealing with these things. There's a lot of advice going around. But in music, in art, in film, or writing, whenever we come up against these creative fatigues, whenever we have, let's call it a creative injury, the path to rehabilitation is confusing. And nobody really knows what's happening. Now, I guess in a way, muscles and bones, they work the same for every single person. But do brains? I don't necessarily think so. Maybe that's why we don't really have such a codified advice for creatives in the way we do for physical actors. But gosh, there must be something out there. Let me know in the comments if I'm missing something very blatant. It reminds me of this weird issue I have that I think I've always had. It's an issue I see in a lot of, let's call them independent artists. We all have this unbelievable devotion to originality. It's a cult-like desire to be original, to be different, to be unique, to discover something new in the creative world, to contribute something new. And when I look at the most successful artists out there, at least in the pop sphere, every single successful artist is a version of someone who came before them. You know, like you look at Ed Sheeran, for instance. He's Glenn Hansard. He's Bob Dylan. He's Van Morrison. He's the singer-songwriter bard with a hope in his bag and €2 in his pocket. He's a very clear character, a very clear archetype. If you look at someone like Katy Perry, she's Pink. She's Britney Spears. She's a variety of other pop singer ladies who is all about expressing yourself. Very clear archetype. But with a lot of the independent artists I know, myself included, our identities are slightly more fuzzy. And I don't know if that's because our ability to be ourselves and to communicate ourselves is less than, or if we're trying to be something so unique that it cannot be defined. I don't think I have any roots. I don't think my practice is rooted in any particular school of thought, any school of philosophy or culture. I look at so many artists of so many different kinds, and they all have these very concrete inspirations that make work that's very similar to theirs. And they're surrounded by a group of artists who make art that's similar to theirs. And then collectively they all move in this direction and it becomes what we call an art movement. But I don't think I have that. I don't know anybody like me. And when I look back on my inspirations, I see too many people. I see too many spices, too many flavors. I can't taste anything in the pot because there's just a little bit too much of everything. And then I worry because to be anything, you have to deny yourself everything you want it to be. Should I say everything else you want it to be? I was listening to the Trevor Noah podcast the other day, and he had a nature documentarian on, and he asked him this question. He said, is there anything you've learned about humanity or about how to live from watching so many creatures? And he said something to the effect of, all of these creatures are brilliant at the thing they do. The single thing that they do to survive, they are experts. And then Trevor chimes in and he's like, yeah, that's exactly what I say all the time. That if you're going to do anything, you have to do the best you can at it. And you have to specialize and you have to really drill into it. And that's just not me. It's never been me. Whenever I was performing in circuses, I would get very good at one particular kind of performance, let's say juggling clubs, and I would get really, 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 really good, and then I'd get bored, and I'd move on to the next thing. And then I'd get really, 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 really good at poi, and then I'd get bored, and I'd move on to the next. And why I got bored, maybe I was frustrated that my ability to learn had been tempered. You know, because you learn so fast at the beginning. At least I do. I'm a very quick learner. So as soon as learning becomes slow, the reward kind of dries up and I just move on. And then I see people who learn slowly and stick with it. And they're usually the people who learn to such a specialization that they become professionals. And I become this jack of all trades who stays quite amateurish. I was making an album, and then halfway through I decided to make a short film. And during the filming of the film, I decided to take circus up again so I could do it in the film. And I'm bouncing back and forth between all of these different art forms and ambitions, and I love it, and it's great, and it's invigorating, and it's the reason I want to get up is so I can do the next thing. But the problem with that, in a professional sense, is that I'm not committing to any single one of them enough to be worthy of your attention, to be worthy of you sharing it with your friends. And I think what scares me, what really, really scares me, is that I will never give any project the love and time and effort it deserves to be something great, to be something that people truly get a lot from. And I guess I have to find my peace with that. Or change. I don't know. We'll see how that progresses. This next album, it's great. I'm enjoying it, but it's slow. And there's so many boring moments. And I'm getting sidetracked with other projects that I'm rationalizing in my head. I'm saying that they're just a part of the album. It's part of the world that I'm building. When in reality, it's just me trying to keep myself entertained because I can't dive deeper. And maybe that's what I need to do. I wonder if my advice for creative play or monotonous play could help me dive deeper into the project, help me dive deeper into this album. Maybe instead of expanding the world that I'm building, I can stress test it. I can dive in and I can take a song and I can rewrite it. I can try to make it something that it's not, just for fun. And then see if it's robust enough. There's this really interesting idea that I came across in a super eye patch wolf video. Really good YouTuber. And he's talking about Garfield and how Garfield is everywhere. And in one of the projects that he's analyzing or that he's commenting on, it's an artist who is who's every day uploading a new Pokemon, but drawn with the components of Garfield. And what's fascinating to see is that no matter what kind of distortion they create of Garfield's body and features, those features are so distinct that in any shape or form, you know it's Garfield. And when you take that approach to design. That no matter what you do with it, no matter how you twist it and fold it and bend it, it will always resemble the core of what it is. You've found something unbelievably valuable. You've found something that you can explore to no end with. I guess as a singer, it's my voice. I wonder if as a writer, it could be in my words or my cadence. As a song producer, maybe it's the particular 2 plugins that I never stop using, which is Realm Reverb and Isotope Trash Distortion. But maybe. I guess for this project to have a cohesive core, I need to be doing deeper work with it. I need to be drilling down into what it's supposed to be. So far, this album has got 2 stories to it. It's got one about becoming this new version of yourself, becoming this more powerful version of yourself. It's a bit more sensual, it's a bit more sexual, it's a bit more energetic and dancey, it's a bit heavier, it's a bit darker. And the other story that I've got, it's incredibly sweet and sad and nostalgic and melancholy. And it's about grief. It's about losing somebody you love. It's about death. It's about the permanence and the finality. And I think most importantly, it's about what happens after somebody dies. And both stories are quite large and quite complex, and there's a lot to them. And they deserve a lot. So I then need to examine myself and figure out how I can dive deeper. But that's the work. Being an artist, I guess, it's not always fun. Anyways, I've been talking for half an hour, and I think I'm actually going to keep most of this in. I don't think I'm going to edit anything out, really. It's been nice just talking to you. I hope you're doing well. I hope life is treating you kindly, and I hope your year has started well. It's now the 3rd day of spring, so I hope you start to see some daffodils popping up soon. St. Bridget has blessed the land once more. If you're not familiar, Ireland celebrates spring on February 1st as Bridget's Day. Bridget is arguably one of our oldest, if not our oldest, deities in Ireland. So important she was that the Catholic Church actually turned her into a saint in order to try to co-opt our existing beliefs into Christianity. And Bridget has survived to this day. She's the goddess of spring. She's the goddess of poetry and beer making and craftsmanship. She's the goddess of healing. She's one of us. Okay. I'm gonna go. I don't know when I'm gonna get the chance to do this again, when I'm gonna get the chance to update you like this, but I hope this finds its way to you. From a very, very far off place, I'll say goodbye for now.